Now recording.
Okay.
Craig is here. I curl with a guy named Craig. Good curler.
All right.
Good curler.
Well, there you go. Welcome to the November 1st, 2023 Aladdin Dow and Curling Community Call here. We'll be going over all of Kruger's curling activities, and we might even touch on some Aladdin Dow
some Aladdin stuff.
Info.
Yeah, I wanted to set the tone early. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it is very important for people to kind of understand where we're at, here in this bear bull market, and it's very murky right now. We're trying to figure it out. So curling may as well be as good of an indicator as anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's a hell of a way to spend a Thursday night.
I bet it is, man. It looks like a blast.
It's a lot of fun. The main important thing about it is the culture, and so this is true, certainly in most of Canada, but if you win against the team you're playing, then you buy the first round of beer.
Oh.
And then if there's time and people are hanging around, the losers usually buy it back. And nice. I mean they should offer. But the thing is that you either win at curling or you get beer. You win, it's a win-win.
That is a pretty good way to spend a Thursday night.
It brought me into this is what got me started, because it took a long time to win. Anyway.
Yeah, we don't have that in DeFi, unfortunately. No. It's you buy your own beer.
If you've been in DeFi for the last couple of years, you might also think it takes a long time to win.
Well, yeah.
You see that segue? That was good. Let's see the tie-in there.
Well, but we have found a way, we think, to increase our chances of winning with this protocol called FX.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
Let's dive right into it, shall we?
Sure. So we got big news to start, right? I say big news.
Okay.
I mean, it's
okay.
It's
Go
not
ahead.
It's not surprising. The cap is up again. We hit our 3,000 ETH TVL cap, and K-Mets and I were talking about this the other day. This is a nice. It's a steady. It's an organic type of growth, right? There's a lot of talk. I mean, even among us on the team, there's a lot of talk about do you like when you create if you create massive hype and you kick off a protocol to huge excitement and you've got 100 million in a day or something, that's awesome, right? Obviously that's a huge victory, and for even like the original Aladdin was something like that, and it's tough to do that kind of thing inside a bear market, but a few teams have done it. It's hard to know how sticky that is, though. So one of the things that I tell myself is that organic sort of consistent growth is something to celebrate. And especially when we're introducing a completely new mechanism like F of X and seeing it kind of like go up by steps. And just in case, like for the community's interest, these caps are really they're really to like keep a sort of a let's say a brake pedal on the growth. Remember, because we have to grow FETH and XETH at sort of a proportional rate. They both need to kind of grow in lockstep. And so we can't, it would be bad news to have like a huge amount of one token or the other minted all at once, because especially at the lower TVL where we are now, that can kind of destabilize things. So this is the bootstrapping phase, and these progressively raising caps give us the abilities to sort of grow in a controlled way to make sure that during the higher risk earlier period, we don't have anything like anybody accidentally push things into an unstable situation. But the fact that we continue, and this is our third cap raise, and things continue to grow means that we are growing. We are getting that inflow. We're growing just the way that we need to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with your sentiment there, and it's important to diversify things as we move along. Like as you say, like not have the protocol captured by one or two entities or something like that.
Oh, so, yeah, exactly right.
And so this is it's really nice to see that sort of like this adoption. You can kind of feel like the boulder picking up speed, and so
absolutely, absolutely.
Go and look at the amount of
and
people
the higher
that are in the rebalance pool and like the APR, and it's just like it just feels like it's just moving along nicely. It's just you just gotta love FX, right?
Yeah, no, it's going just the way that it should be going, in my view. And the bigger the TVL gets, the less sort of worried we have to get. Like the whole idea of caps and raising caps, I think we'll hit a point where it becomes less important, right? Well, maybe we'll start with larger cap raises, just to sort of make sure that, again, that we don't grow in an outsized way on either the F or the X side. But in general, you know, we are getting through that. Well, I'll call it the riskier early phase of the bootstrapping phase of a protocol, right? And getting through that with sort of like smooth sailing is such a victory. It's such a big deal. And then as we have that greater depth of liquidity to call on, then the you know, like I said, the caps become less important and less impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, and to that, so we've raised the cap to 4,000 ETH, which is pretty cool. And then also with the rebalance pool, you don't have to keep your FETH in there for 2 weeks. It's only 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty
So
cool.
it's so first of all, from a user perspective, it is huge, absolutely massive change to no longer have that, because there was a 2-week withdrawal period. And again, part of that limitation was put in place for bootstrapping period, right? Again, everything is kind of sensitive in the early sort of lower value phases. The other thing too is that we're learning more about the model as we're building it and as we're watching it run, and we're thinking more about the utility of the rebalance pool itself, right? And what that means. You know, you can think of it, in the very beginning, we thought of it as purely a mechanism for maintaining the stability of the protocol, right? And that's always going to be its primary job. But in fact, the rebalance pool, as FFX grows, the rebalance pool becomes the sort of risk-free rate of FETH. Now, it's not quite. That I shouldn't even really use that phrase, because obviously it's, you know, with the rebalance pool, you always have the possibility of buying staked ETH using the FETH that you've deposited in it, right? Like, now that's a good thing in a lot of cases, right? You put money in the rebalance pool, and generally speaking, most of the circumstances where your FETH might be redeemed for staked ETH are like right after a big drop in the price of ETH. So it's it's a good time to be buying, right? In the famous way that, you know, the Tetranode used his DCA'd into ETH using Liquidity Stability Pool. You have that same kind of possibility with the rebalance pool, but putting that aside, this yield that this rebalance pool pays really kind of forms the baseline, and that has become really important in the stablecoin game recently with the introduction of T-bill yield onto the chain.
Yeah. So,
and
it's very competitive.
It's very competitive, and this is a way that we are competitive without just turning on the native token tap kind of thing, right? So that's something to think about. You know, anyway, we're thinking about the rebalance pool in different ways, and one of the key things that reasons we made this change to cut down the withdrawal period to just a single day was in order to make that a more sort of useful fundamental feature of FETH itself. And for myself, one of the other things that I've been really kind of thinking a lot about is this F and X model, which, you know, here's a little micro alpha leak for everybody. We're thinking beyond ETH. I think nobody is surprised to hear that, but this F and X model, the whole concept of the rebalance pool taking the underlying yields and paying it to a stable version of an unstable token, that idea has legs, and I think that, you know, again, I don't want to get it too much into details now, because there's a lot of stuff that we need to talk about and sort of behind the scenes and timing and everything. But we are thinking beyond ETH. I don't think that should be a surprise to anybody. And this model, this way of giving people, essentially, when you think about it in general terms, sending farming yields to a stable version and having the price changes go to an unstable version, it actually, to me, financially makes a lot of sense, where you're separating farmers who probably want to hold stables and farm yields from price speculators who probably are less concerned about yields and looking to amplify their gains. And so that actually is kind of a sensible separation to me. And the F and X model, it does exactly that. When you factor the rebalance pool in, the F and X model does exactly that as a sort of a copy pastable primitive. So sorry,
Yeah,
I kind of got off on one there.
Well, no, that's I mean I always say, like, one of the things that I love about these community calls is basically just to know that the team is like continually looking at the products and is trying to improve them, all the time.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah,
always opportunities. And so
we're here. we're
yeah,
working.
yeah, and so it's just kind of nice to know sort of like the thought process, the thinking, just sort of like where things are headed. It'd be really weird if if we were on one of these calls and it was like, we're thinking of adding like a gambling feature to FX protocol, or something like that. You just be like, what is going on over there? But
Yeah,
you kind
I
of get a
mean,
peek into sort of like our sensibilities and
oh yeah,
how we're approaching DeFi.
under the Aladdin kilt here. Holy cow! Anyway, let's move on. But yeah, no, I'm with you, K-Mets, and I think that the other thing too is that it's we talk about this stuff in the open because we are a DAO and we operate in the open, but also because ideas and thoughts from the community are hugely important. And that's one of the big benefits of building in the open, is to get those ideas from the community. I mean, lots of people offer sort of ideas and ways of thinking that we can't incorporate right away or can't sort of act on at the moment. But those hang around, and we have taken tons of different ideas and like, what's the word I'm looking for? Concepts, even just like core parts of ideas that have been shared with us have made their way into the way that the protocol has been built. So please, like always, we're always looking for feedback from the community and your thoughts on what we're thinking. And if what we're thinking is dumb, we should hear that too. Yeah. Tell K-Mets, don't tell me.
My ears are always open. My DMs are open. So always happy to hear.
Mine aren't. Neither my ears nor my DMs.
oh boy. Okay. Well,
contact K-Mets.
Yeah. So
complaints to K-Mets. Compliments. I receive compliments though. If you want to just tag me in Discord.
I think you compliment yourself enough to where you don't need any outside help with that.
Well, I'm just trying to make up for the
Kruger does not have a self-esteem issue problem. He's doing okay.
I pride myself on my self-esteem, obviously.
Okay, all right. Let's see.
Okay, so another change in the rebalance pool. So the rebalance pool withdrawal period down to 24 hours. That's a big change. We've also, now this is a temporary change. This is just an experiment. But we have also cranked up the yields going to the rebalance pool temporarily. So at this point, 100% of the LSD yields are going to the rebalance pool. The VEFXN tokens are receiving the all of the minting and redeeming fees, which, by the way, make up the lion's share of revenue to the protocol. So this is a temporary situation. We are discussing behind the scenes. We're talking a lot about the long-term structure of the rebalance pool. Partly because, as we discussed from the beginning, the rebalance pool, it takes these yields from the underlying yield of whatever the token is it's being split. But we also, of course, have this knob to turn on, which is our native token. And liquidity mining will be starting for that at some point in the not too distant future. So some of the things that we need to think about, given that the protocol is totally self-sustaining without these native tokens, the introduction of the native tokens, as I've talked about before, can be done in a way that just kind of like pours maximum fuel on fire, right? We really have a wide open space to determine how is the best way to kind of start spreading these tokens out. Which things do we want to accelerate with native token emissions? And the final structure of the rebalancing pool is going to have the ability to have a mixture anywhere from 100 and 0 to 0 and 100, kind of like across the whole spectrum, between the yields from the underlying reserve, the staking yields for ETH, but like whatever yield comes from the underlying reserve, as well as as the native token emissions, right? And
Mm.
there's a lot of overlap in those ideas because, of course, the FXN native token is a claim on the yields that are being piped into the protocol, right? So obviously you have you want to be able to farm directly yields from the underlying token. So right now in the rebalance pool, that means staked ETH. But ultimately, whatever staked ETH doesn't get paid to the rebalance pool gets funneled into the protocol and then ultimately back out through the tokens, right? The VE locked FXN tokens. And so whether you pay out in one or the other, obviously it's kind of in a manner of speaking, it's the same way. Now there are obviously very important differences between native token emissions and real yield emissions, and we want to make sure that we grow the protocol. Like we want to make sure that we have the maximum growth potential for the protocol, right? And I see not even potential. We want to make sure we encourage the maximum growth at each different phase of the protocol. So I can imagine over time, the correct mixture of how that rebalance pool pays yield will probably evolve over time based on the market's view of, based on the like TVL and size of the protocol and the obviously the market view on the native token and all those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
that's coming. But right now the TLDR is that the APR is super juicy. It's actually over 8% right now.
I mean, it's got to be like, if not the highest yielding single-sided staking coin, it's got to be like one of the top. I mean, it's pretty nice,
it's up
and
there.
especially with the 1 day withdrawal, it's kind of like it's kind of hard to pass up. So go check that out. It's
check
great.
it out, and like I said, keep an eye on that. But we're the more that I, at least, and I don't want to speak for everybody in the team, but really the more I think about the rebalance pool, the more I realize it's like a fundamental aspect of the way the protocol functions. Not just like a stability tool, but actually like a core aspect of the stable token.
Yeah.
Like the stable token doesn't have anything near the same story without the rebalance pool.
Oh yeah. It's a pretty tremendous feature to be able to add that to your protocol. Then yeah, you can just stake your stable there and earn
Well,
the staked ETH, right?
yeah, and again, it just fundamentally it changes the math on what FETH actually is, right? Like when FETH is this thing that has this reliable, always available yield that's not just token emissions, that's not just inflation. It changes the nature, and I think it just makes it much more likely that FETH can itself have legs, and it has the possibility to sort of grow further and further and faster than otherwise.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to keep talking here, K-Mets. Although maybe, do you want to talk about the dynamic yields? Because there's another thing that we're thinking about for the rebalance pool. Another key change there is the idea of dynamic rebalance pool yielding.
So yeah, we can kind of like pull this apart a bit, but obviously with kind of like the tweaks and the knob twiddling that we're doing, we're still in beta mode here, right? We don't have everything like totally nailed down, and we're, like Kruger said, we're wanting to try to maximize sort of value capture for the protocol and the users. And one of those is the ability to sort of like dynamically direct the amount of yields coming from the reserve to the rebalance pool. And the reason is mainly just to ensure that the collateral ratio for the protocol stays within a range that keeps kind of like the entire system working in a very functional manner. And so, we obviously have like a ton of stability modules in place for if it hits 130. But if as we've seen sort of and we like hints of a bull market, I guess if you could call it that, a lot of people have decided that hey, I kind of want to be positioned for this. I want to be in some XETH, and so it's really driven the collateral ratio up, which is really great for the safety of the protocol for FETH holders. But it could start to dilute sort of XETH, and so by sort of like changing the rebalance pool and by making it more attractive to mint FETH and put FETH in there, you thereby sort of can help create sort of a, I guess you'd call it like a ceiling on sort of the leverage or a floor.
Well, more like you mean a floor on the leverage.
Yeah.
I mean, because minting FETH pushes the leverage up, right? The more FETH that gets minted, the more volatility gets pushed onto the XETH. And so, as you say, very, very clearly, and that was a good way of putting it, is that we've got lots of tools in our kit for what happens if the collateral ratio falls too low and the leverage gets too high. But we haven't really thought about the other side of that, where, you know, how low do we want the leverage to be able to go? You know, if you imagine f of x protocol where 99% of all of the minting is done into XETH, the XETH is really just ETH, right?
Yeah.
You know, as that leverage falls, it eventually approaches 1. If there's no FETH minted at all, it approaches 1. And so, you know, part of the name of the game for f of x growth, as I kind of talked about earlier, is getting these guys to grow in lockstep. And so this whole dynamic rebalance pool yield, the idea here is that we will increase the yield if the basically to try to help push the leverage of XETH up if the protocol is shading more in that direction, right? When the protocol is evenly balanced, the yield of XETH is 2. Right? If it's like if the value is 50-50, and we're actually quite close to that right now.
That's a 200 CR. Yeah, 200%.
Yeah, 200% CR means an effective yield of 2 for the XETH. And you know, that's kind of perfect, right? I mean, I shouldn't say perfect. That's kind of the sort of the minimum end of what we'd like to see for the leverage for XETH. And so it makes sense for the rebalance pool yields to kind of be maximum at that point to really encourage minting of FETH, right? And make that, you know, push up that FETH side. And then as the FETH side goes up, that brings the FETH collateral ratio down again, pushes the leverage up. And as that goes down, obviously you want to have a little less of that extra encouragement to mint FETH if the collateral ratio is really low, right? Because if the leverage is already too high, you don't want to push it too high, because then you're into that stability mode, right? So we're introducing into the rebalance pool the ability to have a range. Now, again, it's never going to go down to 0. There's always going to be that yield into the rebalance pool. But we're just trying to help massage a little bit that collateral ratio so that those tokens perform a little bit more within the range that we think they should, and that the community, I think, demands.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing, is just keeping all the products that FX delivers attractive, you know, in various market conditions. And so that's sort of the name of the game. And so,
well, and it's the magic of DeFi, right? We do this automatically. Yeah. It happens in code, and you do all these little sort of nudge type like financial knobs that you have built in that automatically adjust to make sure that everything sort of that the all the different participants have this like fair sort of deal with each other, right?
Yeah. So we're twiddling with those knobs, and we'll be, you know, rolling that out here in the not too distant future, but just kind of keeping you guys in the loop on what's coming and what to expect there. So so that's kind of like, I guess that kind of summarizes basically most of the kind of upcoming or instituted already modifications to kind of FX and what's going on there. We have another. Oh, go ahead, Kruger.
No. God, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention just a couple of side notes kind of associated with FX here. We've got yeah, I believe Paul put it in the announcements yesterday, the FX announcements on Discord. There's a proposal up on Stargate Finance. And so go check that out. Go read that. It's kind of informal at this stage in time, and so we're just kind of wanting to get people's thoughts and input on it, and just kind of see if it's a good idea or not. And it basically comes down to utilizing Stargate as a bridging mechanism. And so you can get all the details in the proposal. So, but we just want to make sure everybody's kind of aware of it. In fact, I'll put the link here.
Yeah, drop the link. I think for the Stargate proposal, again, the idea here. Part of what we're trying to do is spread the word to DAOs and organizations about FETH as a smart treasury allocation. Now, obviously, like there are kind of reasons why that's win-win for everybody. Obviously, like consistent long-term FETH holding for DAOs, like they've got the stability, they've got the full decentralization. We're like a big part of this is just kind of like marketing and education about FETH specifically as it pertains to DAOs, right? So, we'll suggest that, that's part of the reason why we suggest that you guys go and read this. Let us know if you like even the what we've written, if you like the idea, the way that we've positioned this, if you think there are stronger arguments or whatever, let us know. For the Stargate one particularly, obviously the type of agreements and suggestions that we try to make to these DAOs are like mint out some FETH for your protocol, and then usually we offer something in return. And in this case, we're suggesting that we would end up piping all of our cross-chain transactions through Stargate. Right now we have our own front end on Aladdin. Stargate is layer 0 based, so we're already positioned for that. But obviously, having the token listed on Stargate would be amazing. But also, we can kind of redirect and shovel all of that and sort of have them be the official bridge partner of Aladdin. So, check out the proposal. Think about it from Stargate's perspective, but also just in general, right? This is the message that we're kind of trying to bring to DAOs, and we're always interested in your feedback on it. And if anybody on the call or listening later has got sort of connections at DAOs where there might be a nice partnership opportunity, let us know. Reach out, make some connections. By the way, that is boosting. If anything is boosting, that's boosting.
Yes, that's fantastic. Yeah, anybody, and that's the whole thing is we're just trying to facilitate discussion and integration. The goal is for FETH and XETH to be everywhere all the time with tons of liquidity, right? So
Absolutely.
that's kind of like this is another step in that direction. So, but please go check out the proposal. If there's something about it that you have comments on or questions, reach out to us. Let us know, and we want to hear it. At least my DMs are open still. So just FYIs.
Yeah, mine aren't, but I joke that mine aren't. They actually really are not open, but I'm always happy to add. Ping me on public Discord and let me know you're sending a friend request. That's the general rule.
Yeah.
And so let's
Okay, so that's kind of like the Stargate proposal that's up.
Yep.
The other thing that we have kind of coming up here that'll be interesting is November 10th, we're going to have another Twitter space. So we had the Twitter space last week with DeFi Collective, and that was a lot of fun. Like speaking with folks from Liquidity and Maverick, Gravitas, or not Maverick, but Gravitas, and a couple other stablecoin protocols, and just learning about sort of their approaches to real world assets. And so OKX is going to host another one with several other stablecoin protocols, and we're going to have just a generalized discussion of like real world assets in DeFi, sort of their place, various DAOs approaches to those, how they're integrated into their protocols. So it's going to be kind of fascinating. I learned a lot on the DeFi Collective one and sort of how people are approaching it. And so hopefully this one will be just as interesting. So that'll be November 10th.
It might be interesting to the community that OKX is hosting this.
Yes,
because I'm not saying anything.
Well,
but OKX is a pretty big centralized exchange, and the fact that they that they know about us and that they're interested in talking about these kinds of things, that's kind of a good sign.
Yeah, this isn't the only conversation we've had with them. So just FYI about that.
Yeah, little drip there. Okay, so Mr. Massa just joined us. Popped in all the way from the other side of the pond, from me anyway, not from Paul, but
yeah, he's over there in way West Texas. Way West Texas.
West Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mr. Massa dropped a couple of very cool, like a couple of really detailed, as Mr. Massa
Yeah.
proposals always are, a couple of really awesome proposals into the Aladdin forum. I have to be honest, I haven't had the chance to kind of like dig into the meat and potatoes of these as much as I should. It's on my ever expanding to-do list. But do you want to, Mr. Massa, do you want to give any kind of like little TLDR or a little quick intro to what you were talking about on the forum?
Yeah, sure. All right. Yeah, maybe do that. So yeah, and then sorry for the delay, to join this meetup this time. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. All right. So I already posted two proposals this time. Then let's cover from the first one. It's about update fee proposal about the FX protocol, FOX protocol.
Yeah.
Then so first of all, I really like the stability mode concept of the stability mode. How we're going to design the stability mode. Because stability mode enable us to avoid any kind of the market cascade that might happen. Market bear cycle. FX protocol. So I really like it. But at the same time, because of this disabled mode in the FX rating, that's pretty cool. But in parallel, when I think about how we're gonna scale the FX protocol, in parallel, what I'm thinking about how we're gonna minimize to use stability mode is another like an important factor we have to consider in long term. Because in bear cycle, I think stability mode would happen so often. Then because of this, we're gonna face the difficulty to scale the total TDL of the FOX protocol, which actually I want to really avoid it. Then from that perspective, what I'm thinking right now is if you're gonna apply kind of a more additional fee model, I call it currently medium mode. Then the main purpose of this medium mode is how we're gonna incentivize XETH minter in the market bear cycle. In a market bear cycle. Then as far as I see the current the investor behavior on the FOX protocol, of course most of the people say that it's kind of a trading product, X is minting XETH, but actually I also consider XETH as more long-term investment products. Especially considering about the long-term investment cycle, crypto markets. Usually 2 bull run, 2 bull years and 2 bear cycle. 2 years bull cycle and 2 years bear cycle. Yeah. So my case, actually, I recently invested into XETH. The main purpose for this is actually I'm waiting for the long-term bull run with following BTC post-halving moments. That's actually what I'm waiting for. So I'm not going to sell this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
Mr. Massa, can you just kind of give us sort of a little bit of a just a 2 or 3 sentence overview on sort of like the general idea of the proposal, so that people can kind of obviously they can go, and I've posted the link so that they can go and read it in detail. But if you could kind of just give us a very quick general idea of what you're proposing.
Okay, so general idea is, I want to incentivize XETH minter, just like a rebalancing pool for FETH. Then how are we going to get the money for this, how are we going to incentivize XETH is coming from, our 10% treasury of FX protocol. Currently, we're going to save it for any kind of, currently I think you might understand that we're going to use for recapitalization mode, but I think, it's not that necessary for us to this treasury for the recapitalization mode. Rather, I propose that we should use this treasury for incentivize XETH minter in the bear cycle. Then currently my target is 2% APR. And to achieve this goal, probably 10% not sure quite enough. So that's why I also additionally propose that if possible, I'd like to suggest to you guys that to move some assets from our the liquidity pool incentives. Currently, we're going to set like 49%. If we're going to take like a 5 or 10%, or maybe like 15% move to this, DAO treasury to, achieve the 2% APR for FX minter in the bear cycle. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, one of the things that we talk about in this world. One of the things that I'm not sure about is whether APRs are going to really be incentive enough for XETH. Because XETH is so volatile that a low APR, it really doesn't. I don't know that it has a huge payday for like if you know what I mean. Like the more volatile something is, the higher the APR you expect for it, right? And I kind of think that to encourage people to mint something that is very volatile with an APR would be, well, I would imagine it would be quite expensive. It would need quite a high APR. Do you think or no?
I think, still to me, it's a great benefit. If I can earn, 2% additionally, FX minting stuff. The reason it's coming from is, this kind of a way, how we're going to see the, FX, XETH, minting stuff. It's because, how do I explain it at this point? So, one of the key benefits to mint XETH is zero liquidation risk.
Yep.
As compared with perpetual funding, perpetual futures market. Then, from this perspective, I think I'm not gonna trade XETH so often because of this great benefits for me that I don't have to be afraid of liquidation risk for this.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to wait next bull run. Even I gotta buy some short and over the high price of ETH. Then I think, go ahead. Yes.
I was going to say, I think I understand your point, right? The point that you're making is that for people who hold XETH as an investment rather than as a trading product, any APR is better than zero because it's just gravy basically for something you're thinking of holding anyway. This is a really great proposal. There's actually a dovetailing. I'm going to do my best. We'll get the team to look at it. I mean, obviously we've been looking at it, but think about it really deeply. And I think we're going to post something here in response to. There is actually a change we're looking at rolling out. And I don't know if we've talked about it publicly or not, but one of the changes that I think will help here with the situation that you're describing, which is how do we make the stability mode more resilient in a bear market condition. We're looking at actually separating the rebalance pool into two sub pools. So basically the idea would be in the first rebalance pool, your FETH is redeemed for staked ETH at when we go below the CR threshold, right? When we go into stability mode, FETH gets redeemed for the staked ETH from the reserve. The second stability pool will, when it gets deployed, the idea is in the second stability pool, your FETH actually gets minted all the way into XETH automatically at once we cross whatever the triggering threshold is there. So the idea is going from FETH all the way to XETH is actually the most powerful stability maintenance move that any user can make. Right? That is both. It's like two steps in a row. That's not just redeeming FETH and it's not just minting XETH. It's doing both. Right? And for some people, we've talked to a few people who've liked the idea of being able to farm the rebalance pool with their FETH, and then rather than just buying staked ETH when the price is low, actually scoop up the leveraged ETH when the price is low. Because the other thing too is that when the CR is low, when the collateral ratio is low enough that stability mode has been triggered, it also means that the effective leverage is at the highest. And a lot of people are watching XETH and trying to rotate in at those moments of high leverage, right? If they believe that there's positive movement. So one other way to incentivize this kind of thing is rather than incentivizing holding of XETH, we can divert certain incentives to FETH that is earmarked to mint XETH in a certain scenario. And that and what's interesting about that is that the leverage, the protocol, the value to the stability of the protocol from that move is like a factor of 4 times higher, right? If you just redeem FETH for staked ETH, that has say that has an impact of 1. If you redeem FETH and mint it all the way into XETH, that's like a 4x 5x improvement in the collateral ratio. So it's way more efficient to the collateral ratio for the same amount of money, the same amount of redemption. So anyway, we're running out of time, so let's put a pin in this. But I wanted to give you some time. K-Mets and I wanted to kind of give you some time to talk about this, because these are really important ideas, and I think it's really smart to kind of be thinking about all market conditions, not just the one that we're in right now. And between the ideas that you're talking about here and what we're going to sort of be rolling out soon with the second rebalance pool, I think we're going to be able to kind of pick and choose from this whole set of thoughts into something that really ramps the stability up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
we're definitely thinking in parallel with you, Mr. Massa.
Yeah, this is that way. Yeah, I'm still thinking about, my concern about for your, current idea you're going to share to me is the point is that even we're going to take that approach, still the huge demand from the, FX minter because of the, market strong, market bear cycle, that's my concern. So, we cannot stop that. Everyone, wants to meet the FEs to protect the assets and wants to, earn the rebalancing pool APR stuff. So that's actually my concern. So that's why I'm thinking about we probably have to think about some alternative solutions to avoid stability mode as much as we could. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about for this proposal.
Okay. Well, we should definitely talk about this more. And I mean, one of the high level questions I guess we need to ask is, do we need to avoid stability mode, or do we need to reinforce stability mode? Because I think that's the key difference between your proposal and what we're talking about, right? You're trying to keep us away from ever touching stability mode with some extra incentives to kind of stop us from getting there. And whereas the approach that we're looking at right now is to make stability mode more bulletproof and more of like a hard, more effective, right? So anyway, this is really, really good stuff. We're definitely going to keep talking about it. Maybe we'll talk again in the next community call. I know you have a second proposal up to talk about. Would it be cool to punt that to next week? Can we do that next week?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
because there's
it's up to you. Yeah, I can share some brief idea about this point, and then
I'll tell you what.
discuss it.
I tell you what, I'll post the link here, and we can encourage people to go and read about it, and maybe get the discussion started, because I think it's a very long-term sort of view of the Aladdin DAO in general.
Yes.
And so I think it's definitely a really cool idea, and man, talk about thinking outside of the box. I think this is absolutely fabulous. I love when people brainstorm and come up with cool ideas like this. Just to know that everybody's thinking about these things and trying to figure out ways to improve them. And that's like we're totally dependent on each other and the community and the core contributors and everybody to keep making Aladdin DAO as solid of a DAO and protocol incubator as possible. And so so this is fantastic, man. And so everybody, the link's posted there in the chat.
Check it out. Leave comments on both of them. Actually, both of them we definitely want to get. Back in Echo's already given a nice, thoughtful response as well. And we're gonna keep talking on the forum. A lot of times with these complex ideas, it's good to be able to read and then take some care in the response. So that's what we're going to try to do here too. And yeah, we'll talk about the ALD one next week, because we also have some other ALD stuff that we're going to start moving out. So we're low on time somehow, K-Mets. I think it's your fault.
It's definitely my fault. I've been talking this whole time.
Yeah, I don't know why my voice is sore, but I think it's your fault.
I tell you what. So we can kind of briefly kind of go through sort of our remaining bullet points here.
Top speed, lightning round.
Yeah, top speed. Okay, so I'll do the drive in here. So for Concentrator, good news is there's not a whole lot to report this week. It's doing what it does. It's concentrating, and we've got some background stuff that we're cooking. And so we'll share more of that once we're able to. But don't you worry, like Concentrator is definitely top of mind for the team, and making sure that it's it's going to be really attractive for everyone in the future. So and remains attractive. So that's Concentrator. For Clever, obviously we had a new CVX bribe round come in, and bribes were up a little bit, which was kind of nice to see. And so that was kind of cool. And then additionally, we've got a snapshot vote up for the Prisma airdrop. And so I'll just take a moment to kind of talk about this. So Prisma, as you guys may or may not be aware, is going to be a new protocol sort of that will be, gosh, I don't know, like taken in by Convex. And it's basically a fork of Liquidity that utilizes LSDs, and they'll have a gauge system, and it appears they'll have like some sort of bribing incentives or something like that. But they will have an airdrop here in the near future for the Prisma token. And there's two options. One of them is you can basically get the airdrop in the very near future so long as you are willing to accept it as CVX Prisma, or it's locked for 12 months, and then a year from now, or whenever they have the airdrop, it gets you can basically access it. But up until that time, we can vote with it on proposals that they have and whatnot. So
I was just sorry to interrupt. I think we should be clear here to say that the Prisma airdrop will be allocated to people who were depositors in Clever, so people who had CVX deposited in Clever.
Yes.
At the time, they took a snapshot at the time of they had a gauge vote for Prisma, and the idea was everybody who supported their gauge qualifies for the airdrop. Clever ran a VE Clev voting round for that, and it passed. And so the Clever CVX, all of the Clever CVX was used to vote for the in favor of the gauge, which means that Clever, the protocol, is entitled to this airdrop as far as we understand. Now, the details of exactly when the tokens are coming are not clear. They haven't been decided yet, but definitely if we choose, if we choose to receive as CVX Prisma, then we'll get them sooner in CVX Prisma form. If we choose to receive in Prisma, it'll probably be like a year plus down the road when those Prisma tokens actually unlock and can be claimed. Now, because the actual tokens are going to VLCVX depositors, the snapshot vote is for VLCVX depositors. Okay, so if you hold VLCVX on Clever, you can vote in this snapshot, and the snapshot will determine whether we request the airdrop in CVX Prisma or Prisma.
Yeah. So the link's posted in the chat there, so go check it out. There's one more day left to vote. It ends tomorrow. So hustle up, go vote, go check it out.
Yeah,
and,
CVX Prisma is in the lead right now, but there's very low overall. Like we got 2.8 million CVX in Clever, and like 40K have voted. So
so your voice will be heard for sure.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Clever, and then really for Aladdin, we talked about Mr. Mouse's proposals. So please go check those out. And then we're also going to have we're going to start floating out some of the tokenomics revisions to the forum as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that, because we're going to start to roll that out here.
Yeah, I was hoping to have more time to talk about that this week, because internally at the team, we're trying to think about the best way to position. We've talked in the past about changes to the ALD tokenomics. I know Mr. Massa's proposal, his second proposal, talks about ALD tokenomics. I think we'll carve out a larger period to talk about this next week. But ultimately, all the things that we've been cooking on ALD tokenomics, also Tau has a proposal from a long time ago that was actually voted on and passed, and so those ideas have been incorporated, and the team has some extensions to those ideas. That's been backburnered a little bit recently, just with other work that's being done, but that's bubbling up to the top right now, and we want to think about how best to position all these tokenomic changes so that we can properly sort of introduce them to the market. And so we've been talking and kind of debating it on, behind the scenes about whether or not we want to kind of do them all at once or a bit at a time. And I think that right now as a team, we're leaning towards just starting to like introduce the features of the new tokenomics sort of a bit at a time. And the first key feature of the ALD tokenomics that we want to change is introducing a hard cap in the total number of ALD at 150 million, and taking the FDV down by like 90%, 85%, whatever. So that is a huge change. And rather than kind of bundle that in with all the other changes like VE rollout and some other things that we have cooking, we potentially will introduce these things one at a time, give sort of like one new piece of one new data point, and then drip another sort of new data point for ALD out soon thereafter, and slowly try to help build momentum for ALD. We all kind of sense that we're moving in a positive market direction here, and we want to take advantage of that. So we'll talk more about that next week, and we're, as usual, keen to hear the community's ideas on how we can best manage market expectations for this ALD transition. And really, like, ALD should have a position of great power here, and it doesn't really accurately reflect at all everything that Aladdin has done. So we need to make sure that that value is properly accruing to ALD with everything we're building.
Yeah, absolutely. So those, keep your eyes on the forum. We'll obviously post an announcement when those are up and available to read. So keep your eyes peeled. And then finally, our last thing for Aladdin is A-Team is hosting our first Chinese language Twitter space with Tao. So, man, this is really cool on Tao here, and that'll be tomorrow. And let me get the link here so all of our Chinese speakers in our community can attend. Should be pretty cool. Tao's got a pretty cool article he's going to include in our newsletter, which should be out like next week at some point. So thanks, Tao. Man, looking forward to it, man. So keep your eyes and ears ready for that one tomorrow morning, and the article will be coming out in the newsletter shortly. So yeah, sure. And speaking of Charlene, we saved you negative
-3 minutes.
Yes. Oh boy, that's
I'm
pretty
sorry.
good with this crew. It's pretty good with this
Yeah,
crew.
it's, man,
So,
I guess too much juice, too much concentrated juice on FFX. I got too excited.
well,
happened to-
how can you not be excited about FX, right?
It happens every week.
Yes. So, Charlene, whenever you are ready, you are welcome to come up and give us your 2 minutes.
-3 minutes.
Minus 3 minutes.
No one's counting here.
I feel like as the clock is running down towards the end of the hour, the steam is just slowly starting to come out of Charlene's ears as it just.
All right, let's go.
She's very
Let's go
patient.
-3 minutes. Actually, -4 now. I think there are a few key indicators we really care about. Dollar index, long and short term, U.S. Treasury bond yields. That's basically what we review every week. They're all still trading at very high level. So dollar index is heading into 107. 10-year U.S. Treasury bonds yield is at 4.9%. I think it's just traded down slightly, and 2-year U.S. Treasury bond yields is still above 5%. So if you look at the data in a week's time horizon, the dollar actually has been up slightly, but Treasury bond yields have been trading down. I think the market is realizing that we are probably already at the end of this rate hike cycle, right? We talk about this in last 2 calls. And I think the probability pricing is showing that, there's more agreement there. We'll get more confirmation on this at Fed's meeting tomorrow. And dollar is still trading up, probably more for geopolitical reasons. But definitely the rates have shown market consensus. We're probably top from the funding cost perspective. So that's an important turning point for the market, right? And for September and Q3 economic data release, I think the numbers look pretty good so far. US Q3 GDP came out surprisingly strong. It posted for 4.9% growth versus 4.3% for consensus, and 2.1% for Q2, right? That's like more than doubled from Q2. In September, retail sales went up 3.8%, versus 1.5% for consensus and 2.9% for August. And September new home sales also jumped up 12.3% versus minus 11% for consensus and minus 8.2% for August. But existing home sales and mortgage applications were still in declining mode. So there's definitely a structured growth in housing market there. So the new money, right, come from certain sector in the market, not across the entire market. And September PCE was 3.4% versus 3.4 for consensus and 3.4 for last month. So we talked about this before, right? PCE is actually the inflation number Fed is really focused on, right? They actually look at PCE more than CPI. So PCE is still way above their long-term target of 2%. So things look pretty good in general, much better than expected, right? And the economic numbers, actually, if you cross-check them, they are aligned to each other. So well done, U.S. economy.
I don't know how well we're doing,
doing,
but yeah.
Well, the numbers look, really good.
Yeah.
The numbers don't lie,
impact-
K-Mets.
I
Congratulations. You
Yeah.
you bought enough. I guess you bought enough Halloween candy to get out of trouble.
It's very possible.
Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah. You're welcome, everyone, or whatever. Yeah.
However, right, the impact of funding costs at such high level for so long, that impact may come later, right? So we should still be cautiously optimistic. That's my minus 3 minutes update for this week. I'll try to do a better one next week.
Well, okay, that's I got so used to for 2 years the Charlene discussions being just like gloom and misery that this is such a refreshing, cautiously optimistic is like that's like Charlene's version of fireworks.
Well, I mean,
Well, we just have to respect the numbers, and there's some consistency there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know what? Actually, I have a question, Charlene, about this because I've seen that like they come out with like revised numbers like a month or two later. Like, what is the cause of that? I mean, did they just get better data or something?
Statistical operational mistake.
Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Most likely.
Yeah, because the market.
They do that once in a while, right? It's especially on the employment number, right? Like the ADP and the non-farm. Right? These two sets of numbers are supposed to be consistent, right? But they almost came out apart, right? Very different for every month, right? This year, right? And people question that. And when people question that, right, and they came out, there have been a couple of occasions that came out later and revised the number, right? So you definitely, I would doubt, right, one of those institutions or maybe both associated with some hedge fund.
Yeah.
No, there's no capture of the. There's no capture of the
well,
system.
in particular, the company published ADP number, right? That's a private company.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm just skeptical in general. I kind of feel like the numbers they put out are sort of to massage expectations or, to guide the market in a certain way. And then later on down the road, they can kind of sneak in whatever the actual info is.
Yeah, they all sort of, the numbers, right, for some purposes, but they have to be, like reasonable level of variance, right? But anyway, just buy more candies, Kimet, and just keep contributing.
I'm doing my best to save this planet. So if it requires me buying more candy, I will do it for you guys. So there you go. All right. Well, thank you, Charlene, for your macro update this week. We appreciate it for your minus 3 minutes of contribution. So we're now minus 11 minutes over, which is not too bad for us, Kruger. So I guess that's all she wrote for this week, right? So, yep, your mic's dead. It gave up at minus 10 minutes. So it's just K-Mits is going to wind this up for you guys, but we appreciate everybody jumping in. We've got a lot of links there in the chat to go check out. So please go review those. I'll post the notes here in a little bit for folks that weren't able to join on the call. And we appreciate everybody for being here and listening to us. We'll see you in Discord and on Twitter and whatnot. So everybody have a great first week of November here, and we'll see you down the road a bit. Bye, everybody.
Yep. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for coming by.
Bye.
Bye.